Well, we go to what's good for the goose is good for the gander and dollar store Malcolm X.
What?
The redistricting wars have begun. GOP looks to dominate.
What?
And a once bright and upcoming Tennessee rep
Hold up.
goes all Malcolm X
Been had. You've been took. Been hoodwinked.
to score points. I'm Jasper Gonzo, and this, I've used it before, so I'll use it again. You hear that?
What the fuck?
It's all the crying. But it's what's next. What's up, everyone? Jasper Gonzo, what's next? Your daily dose. Facts, common sense, and salt. Another episode for you. Hope you guys are feeling well today. And of course, this is the weekend edition. Well. The redistricting wars have begun. After Virginia's debacle in trying to scam GOP voters and wreck lives in their misuse, or shall we say abuse, let's go with that, that works better, in redistricting the state into Democrats' favor to go from a 6-5 Democrat lead to a whopping 10-1. And of course, the Virginia State Supreme Court steps in and says, no, not going to happen. So they're all pissy. So what does the GOP do? Well, a number of states, Tennessee, Alabama, and other red states are stepping in and doing their own redistricting plans. Of course, we saw what happened with mighty Florida and Macho Man Ron DeSantis. They got it passed. He signed in the law, and that's the end of that. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And of course, you got some people who are upset, especially one Tennessee rep who was bright and upcoming and intelligent speaking and knowledgeable. He went all Malcolm X to score points. Really. And of course, now he calls Trump the devil. Shock and awe. And here we go. This comes out of Gateway Pundit. GOP redistricting dominance. New report claims Republicans on track for massive 11-plus seat House pickup as Democrats' gerrymandering scheme collapses. Look at the map. You gotta love it. The battle for control of the U.S. House is increasingly being fought not just on the ballot box, but in the map room. Just days after the volunteer state, of course, Tennessee, we're talking, GOP legislature rammed through a new congressional map that eliminates the state's only Democrat-held black majority seat, turning Tennessee into a solid 9-0 Republican delegation. A bombshell new crystal ball redistricting report is out, and it's devastating news for Chuck Schumer, Hakeem, Dollar Store, Timu Obama Jeffries, and the entire crying, screaming Democrat Party. This comes on the heels of the Supreme Court nuking Louisiana's illegal racial gerrymandering and opening the floodgates for fair maps across the South. Below is the status redistricting wars by, of course, Ben Hart. Of course, he is the writer of this article. Completed. California, +5 for the DEMS. Utah, +1 for the DEMS. Texas, +5 for the GOP. Florida, +4 for the GOP. North Carolina, +1 for the GOP. Missouri, +1 for the GOP. Ohio, +2 for the GOP. Tennessee, +1 for the GOP. Total completed, +6 for the Democrats, a +14 for Republicans. These are the ones that are pending. Alabama, +1. Probably 80% happening. Louisiana, +2. 80% happening. Mississippi, +1. 30% happening. I'm kind of surprised. It is Mississippi. And Virginia, +4 for the Dems, probably, but will be overturned by the Virginia Supreme Court, which it was. Most likely outcome, +17 for the GOP, +6 for the Democrats, and of course, you hear that? It's all the crying. But anyway, of course, the net gain of 11 seats for the Republicans. If those predictions materialize, if they become true, Republicans would enter the next election cycles with a significant structural advantage in the House, an advantage that could make Democrat efforts to reclaim the chamber dramatically and massively harder. Not only will the GOP hold the House, the GOP might even gain a seat in the Senate. Of course, Susan Collins will prevail against a Nazi tattooed guy and self-proclaimed commie in Maine who appears to be mentally ill. Chris Sununu, former popular New Hampshire governor of GOP, has a very good chance to win in the House. Win in the Senate. Of course, that would be a GOP +1. GOP on track to flip Michigan with Democrats nominating the Islamo-commie clone of Mandami, who is outspoken in his hatred of America and praised the Islamo-terrorism. This is where the Democratic Party is today. Mike Rogers wins another +1 for the GOP. The GOP might flip Georgia if Trump DOJ makes it even slight dent in cleaning up the ballot fraud in Fulton and the Cobb counties. GOP probably loses North Carolina, but you never know. This comes from Breitbart. Tennessee State Representative Pearson, of course, Timu Dollar Store Hakeem Jeffries is more fitting, but let's go with faux Malcolm X. Biggest white supremacist in the United States? Yes, that would be Trump. Of course it would be. On Friday's MSM Now with the weekend, Tennessee State Rep Justin Pearson said President Donald Trump is the biggest white supreme in the United States. Let's hear from his own ignorant ass mouth.
This is an assault on Black people in this country. And,
of course it is.
and frankly, it's been happening for a while now. When I first met you, it was because you and 2 other state elected officials were kicked out of the chamber during a
For doing stupid ass nonsense.
session because, well, we don't even need to go through it. They kicked y'all out and not anybody else. And so you had some very impassioned words.
Because it turns out that they got kicked out because they were starting shit and no one else was. But of course, it's all about racisms.
On the floor from the State House yesterday. I know you were they attempted to bar you from re-entering. What is your message to not just other elected officials in state legislatures across the country, but Black and brown voters in some of these states across the South, across the country, about what it's going to take? Because we are, I believe, in a post-Reconstruction period, another one right now.
Yes, it's all about Jim Crow 2.0.
Oh, I think you're muted. There you go.
It's fitting that we don't hear his mouth, but yeah.
Thank you. What we experienced and what we saw yesterday in the state of Tennessee was a political lynching. It is very much
Oh, lynching. Oh, we're bringing that back now? Okay.
an era of retribution that we are entering into in the United States of America across the South, where 12 to 20 United States House seats that are Black majority are at risk of being taken away, and nearly 200 seats for state House members and state Senate members are likely to be taken away by the rise of white supremacy and its attempt to solidify its power on behalf of the biggest white supremacist in the United States of America, which is the President of the United States.
Yes, it's all about white supremes.
I was expelled, and my other Black colleague was expelled from the Tennessee General Assembly, standing up against gun violence, while our white colleague was not. That's not accidental or coincidental. This is a part of who the Tennessee General Assembly is. But in this particular moment, we all have to stand up, speak up, and fight back from whatever positions we have in every part of this country. At the State House, in the governor's mansions, we need to be advocating and fighting and resisting, because what just happened in Tennessee was the largest and the most swift disenfranchisement of Black people that we have seen in at least a century.
Disenfranchisement. And we go to this. This coming from X. This was Mr. Representative Pearson, who just after Tennessee did their sweeping redistricting plan, got a little mad. He was a little mad. So what was all this about?
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You stupid mother.
My oh my. Now, of course, the Democrats have already said that they're going to file appeals and, jam this into the courts, because how dare they redistrict maps? How dare they? Does Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, and other pending GOP states, how dare they do this? This is about racism and disenfranchisement and oppression and Jim Crow and lynchings and what have you, pulling out all the race cards from the 60s and 70s and throwing them in 2026. So when you have gerrymandering got shot down from Louisiana by the Supreme Court of the United States, says, yeah, you know what? Race-based gerrymandering, yeah, not going to happen. It needs to end. and it's going to end now. So red states took it upon themselves to step in and say, hey, guess what? We are allowed to redistrict the maps because now we're no longer doing it by race-based. We're doing it, based on GOP voters and what have you, and redistricting their own states. So there's that. Then you have the wonderful Mr. Pearson from Tennessee, Democratic Representative of Tennessee. So for those who seem to forget, in the beginning of his career, he was clean cut, shaved, well dressed, went around to talk to people about being represented for Tennessee. And of course, where did he go? Did he go to the black districts? No. He went to the white districts to get points, to score points. And score points he did. He won. He got in. And then all of a sudden, like the last few years, he went all Malcolm X, all dollar store Malcolm X, grew his hair out, blew out his afro, started wearing African garb. And now I'm for the cause. I am now the new Malcolm X of 2026. Well, Malcolm X would have trashed him, calling him a faux lib, not a faux lib, would have called him fake and phony because that's what liberals do. So him starting shit in the Tennessee House after Tennessee decided to redistrict their own maps and get in the face of a state policeman and talk shit, calling him boy and calling him motherfucker. Wow, that's class right there. That is total class. But this is who the Democrats are. This is what they are. They can't out-debate you. They can't out-fact you. They have no receipts. All they can do is attack you. That's all they can do. And again, more proof is in the pudding. So while GOP states redistrict and doing it the right way, of course, you got to have those like Pearson and others screaming and yelling, racisms, how dare you, this is Jim Crow. Oh my gosh, we're going back to the 60s where dogs were attacking us and lynching in the streets. The GOP is like, no, we're doing it per protocol. We're doing it the right way, unlike Virginia, who tried to ram it through and say, screw the voters. No, we're not. So there's that. So, yeah, suck on that, Mr. Pearson. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please comment below. Like it, share, subscribe to it. Hit that notification button so you guys never miss a thing. Continue to spread the word about the show. Appreciate you guys watching as always. And we'll see you next time. Peace.